All right, y'all. You know what time it is. We are here again. This is the No Cap Recap. I need some kind of a sound effect for our show. I don't know what it would be. If y'all have any ideas, I think that would be appropriate. A whip?
I don't know. This is the first thing that came
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, you did have a fiery sermon, so maybe you're still in that mindset. It's like Rev just went straight to a whip. Like, all right, let's make sure we're looking good on our platforms here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I hope that everyone has had a good week. Couple notable things. Happy 11th birthday to Layla. Her birthday was on the 5th.
I'm doing the horn. That was the horn.
That was the horn?
Look,
wow.
I am not the dude from Police Academy. I'm doing my best here.
Give yourself. People don't even know what Police Academy is.
Hey. I think the beer does the dating for me. Like, they see all these grays. I ain't hiding nothing.
Wow. And then we've got brother Keyshawn, who turned 21 yesterday. So happy birthday to both of them.
Amen.
Spent a little bit of time with Keyshawn last night on his birthday, and he's going out to lunch today. So we're excited. And Rob says, "Nice horn, Rev."
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. This is the no cap recap, so stop the cap there. Yes, we are definitely old. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into it. Sounds like we're looking good, according to Rob. So, this week on the show, and as we always do, just a little explainer, the no cap recap is a chance for us to have a conversation. So Pastor Reverend Michael Ellington is the pastor of New Horizon Ministries. And I'm Marwan Cameron, Mr. C. And we have decided to come together and kind of frame conversations. The Rev from the Christian side and me from the secular side. Although, again, in full disclosure, I am do identify as Christian. But I believe from my side that the Bible has a lot of good things in it that can help you, guide you in your life's journey.
I believe that too.
Yes, but for you, it's more spiritual, right? and folks are really going through it, right? These are some really trying times, and just want to create some space for folks to gain some knowledge, skills, abilities, some resources that can be applicable or that they can use to help them navigate through their life. So this week, let's go ahead and get right on in to our verses. Today, we're looking at John 10, 7 through 10, and the Rev is using the New King James Version to talk about that. So I'm going to go ahead and read the verses. And as we always do, the pastor will recap his sermon, and then we'll get into a discussion. All right. So verse 7, then Jesus said to them again, most assuredly, I say to you, I am the door, the sheep. You're just cracking your knuckles. Just wait for you to finish. All right, Bruce Lee. Verse 8. All who ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. Verse 9. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. And then verse 10. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. So let's jump into your sermon there and kind of get a recap. Why did you choose this particular set of Bible verses and summarize your sermon for us?
All right. So let me crack a couple of last knuckles here. So the title of today's sermon was "Everything the Devil Stole," and it was today's message, and I'm not saying this to promote myself in any way or anything like that. God To God be all the glory. I would you know I would really suggest that listeners go and listen to the message, because it's the beginning of a series of messages, and the overall arching theme of the series is being radical rebels. And I used these particular scriptures in today's message to kind of lay down a foundation of where the series is going. And so my premise is that there's a lot that is lacking, in Christianity, with Christians. That Christians have turned into a bunch of Sunday pew surfing, Christians, and you know um, the thing I believe is, Christianity is to be Christ-like, and Christ was a very radical rebel, and that we need to, reclaim that radicalness, and that being that rebel, having being rebellious to the status quo, the complacency and the compliancy that I see, just isn't it's not acceptable with me. Right now, and I'm not saying that there's no work being done. I'm not saying that this is applicable to every single Christian and anything like that. But in overall, in general, yeah, it's true. The work needs to the work needs to move beyond just like the norm. Oh, we're passing out turkeys for the holidays, and we're doing backpacks for back to school, and like all that stuff is great and that's good and that's part of the work and it needs to be done. But we've been silenced, we've been censored, the church is being censored, and silenced, and like I'm just not gonna be quiet no more. Like um I don't get a paycheck, so I ain't worried about like that. And if anybody that know me, they know like I'm not that one. If you was at my ordination, you know that I'm going one way or the other. I'm gonna proclaim God's word, and like yeah, that I think that's missing right now, that proclamation of the authentic proclamation of God's word. One of the things that really got me going on today's message was a video that I encountered, uh um where, in my opinion, there was the abuse of a child, and it's become when taken into context, it's become prominent. We're being and well, I don't want to say that part because then that kind of start getting
Yeah,
into some of the
give us a summary.
Okay, that's it. That's the summary.
That's the summary.
Yeah, because I don't want to get into the upcoming messages just yet, and that I was going to go that way. So
got you. So your message today was the radical rebel, radicalizing.
You was here for it, so what did you think?
uh, radicalizing your salvation. So
Oh,
I'll get into that. I've
okay,
got some
okay,
notes, right?
okay.
That's in there, and there's to jump into it a little bit. So I'll answer your question, and then I'll
Mhm.
come back around. So for me, uh, I think of myself as a radical rebel, right?
Amen. Amen.
In the starting G2, uh, how I help people, the way that I dress. So I walk through the world as Marwan, right? What you see is what you get. And so in that, I wasn't always that person, right? I was a person who cared about what people thought of me,
Mhm.
what they,
Mhm.
um, what they, how I present,
Yeah, their
to
perception
the
of you.
world. And what I'll say is, we all care about that to some perception, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we're not walking around here naked, although that might be against the law. But you feel good, you look good, and you can project that, right? But I like to be congruent. That's one of my favorite words. And I want to be congruent in myself as I walk through the world, because then I don't have to switch with you. And then I need to switch with this person. I
Mhm.
need to switch with that person. And so it's one of the things I actually appreciate about you, because I could talk about the things that are worldly with you, right? And you don't pass judgment on it, right? It allows me to have a conversation where I don't have to feel like, well, I can't say that to the Rev because the Rev, he's not about that. But that's what's going on in my life, and that's what I want to talk about.
Just because I ain't about something don't mean that it's off the table. The
Right,
conversation.
but
Yeah,
that's for you. But for a
yeah,
lot of people, it's like, well, no, you need to. They're not having that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not a place where you can go and have that conversation and kind of speak on things. And there are some differences. Like maybe I'm coming to someone just to talk. Other times I'm having a conversation. I want some feedback or some input or some advice. Right. Typically, if you come to me, sometimes folks will say, "Well, I just want to vent." Well, if you come to vent to me, you're probably gonna get some feedback. So it it is what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I digress to jump back in there. The radical rebel. I see myself as that, and in my notes, some of the things that I put down is, I will tell folks a lot of times that I build the plane while I'm flying it, and that doesn't mean that I'm just going off half cocked and I don't have a plan and I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. I had a speaking engagement a few years back, and I can't remember what it was for. But one of the things that was the premise, the tenet of that conversation was thoughts, plans, and actions. Right? It starts with your thoughts. Right? You need to think it first. Right? Then you need to plan, and then you need to act on it. And so a lot of us don't. We get stuck in first gear. We get stuck in the thoughts, whether good or bad. Right?
Mhm.
And so in that, we have this analysis paralysis where we're just thinking about it. I need to stop doing this. I need to start doing this,
Mm,
you know,
mm,
but we can't get past to the, all right, so how am I going to start doing this? How am I going to start not doing this? How am I going to decrease this behavior and get what it is that I'm looking to achieve, right? And then the other piece of it is, you'll see folks that'll do some planning, but then they don't follow through on it, right? And so they haven't really planned for it well enough for this to be consistent. And so I tell folks all the time that your vision has to have three layers: the layer of what's directly in front of you, the layer of you've kind of held up your eyes a little bit so you can see what's in front so you don't trip over the obstacles, and then you need to project out a little bit further so that you know what direction you're heading and where your overall destination is, right? And so when we don't do that, we don't know what kind of pitfalls we're going to have, right? Oh, well, I ended up having to go over these mountains, but because I was so focused on the day, right? And you hear people say that, right? All I can focus on is today, right? And but today you need shorts. But by the time you get a few miles down the road, you're going to come into some weather because your elevation is going to increase.
yeah.
But you don't have a winter jacket for now, and you're not planning for that, right? And so those things are important. But folks can get caught up in that analysis paralysis and say, well, I need to plan for all that stuff in the future, and I need to plan for the stuff that's right here in front of me, and then I need to look at my immediate. And so for me, that radical rebel in me is I'm not going to allow that paralysis of getting stuck in any of those three levels. I'm going to be thoughtful on what it is that I'm trying to achieve. I'm going to plan it out, and then I'm going to take action on it. Now, the difference is I know that this might not work out. It may fail. It may not look the way that I intended it to look, and that's okay, right? Because I'd rather have tried and failed than not have tried at all, right? A lot of people live with these regrets. And I was having a conversation in one of my advising sessions, last week saying, hey, if you didn't die, but because you're really good to say tomorrow's not promised to you, right?
Yeah.
And we were just having this conversation yesterday, and what I had gave back to you is a lot of people will say, well, if tomorrow's not promised, then why even plan for tomorrow? And we talked about you gave back, probability, right?
Yeah.
Although it's not promised to you, the probability that it's going to happen is high.
Yeah.
So you still have to do some planning. And so that doesn't let you off the hook. And so it's important that you are, you know, you have to be consistent in what it is that you want to do. Go forward, make your plan, have your thoughts, and then take action on it. And now you're going to modify it as you go because you can't foresee everything. And for a lot of people, that seems very radical, right?
Mm. Why do you think that that's a radical concept? Just simply, making preparation for, the likelihood of living, like.
Well, again, as I started at the top of the show, and what we say is, we're in trying times, right? Folks, find it increasingly difficult to, find affordable rent, find a job. They're dealing with all these things. You spoke a lot about the kids, right? And the attacks that they're under constantly. And they don't have this ability to be children.
Yeah.
One of the notes that I had wrote is, you've got parents weaponizing their children through proxy for political issues, right? There was an article where some kids were wearing Blue Lives Matter, the flag on their football helmets, right? And so the kids didn't come up with that, the parents did, right? And now the parents indoctrinate the kids into those thought processes, right? And so when we talk about like racism, a lot of folks will say, oh, it's not as bad as it was, in the past, but still, it still persists. And it's like, well, it still persists because the parents are the first teachers, right? Primarily the mothers are the first teachers. So that's a learned behavior. When you get a bunch of kids in the park, they're all playing together and they're not worried about all those
Can
things.
I got a comment.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got a comment. So listen, if you are the person that thinks like, hey, racism isn't that bad anymore, right? My thing with that is this: you can never, what I'm saying, identify another person's pain threshold, and maybe you don't perceive it as being that bad, but that's for you and your experience, uh like if I prick my finger, what I'm saying, if I fall down and scrape my knee, you know I may be, Peter Griffin for 20 minutes, what I'm saying, like in just excruciating. You might fall down, scrape your knee and be like, okay, let's go. Like we can't identify the level of pain, what I'm saying, inflicted by racism on any individual. And so you can't say that, oh, it ain't that bad no more. You know, you don't know how racism affects any individual, what I'm saying, unless they attempt to articulate that to you. And so
I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to be intellectually honest, but I disagree with your statement on that, right?
okay, well, disagree then. Come on with it.
Well, my disagreement comes in the fact that there are folks that will take the McDonald's coffee. Way back, it's kind of like an urban legend, but it did happen.
Mhm.
Woman dropped coffee in her lap from McDonald's and then sued, and won millions of dollars, right?
Mhm.
Well, you'll have that woman who won millions of dollars in this lawsuit for dropping some hot coffee in her lap because she's in the car driving with some hot coffee,
Mhm.
knowing that it's hot. It says caution hot on there. But then for other things where folks have been wronged, man, they might only get $5,000 to $10,000, right?
Mhm.
So you'll also see people start to weaponize their victimhood, right?
Mhm.
The things that have
That is
happened,
true.
and
That is
so
true.
an eye for an eye. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight, right?
Mhm.
So I think there are limits in that. So yeah, you fell down, you scraped your knee, and yeah, maybe I can shake it off a little bit better than you can, and it really hurts you, but I think there's still some levels to that.
So I can't, and I get what you're saying,
Mhm.
but I think we're comparing apples and oranges,
Speak on it.
because like I think what you're saying, as far as speaking to, people, manipulating situations, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, weaponizing,
Yeah, but who are you to
and
say if it's a manipulation, because you can't tell them how they've.
hold on, hold on, hold on. Because I'm speaking of what the points you gave, right? You know what I'm saying? And you saying like, yeah, there's a gauge, like, yeah, right. My thing is, what I'm saying, it's it you know the effect of, what I'm saying, racism is, what I'm saying, it's its measurement, on an individual level is intangible, right? So, all right, you get, like, we both, example, right? We both date the same girl, different times. We both date the same girl. She breaks your heart, right? And then, I date her and she breaks my heart, right? You walk away and like, okay, next, I'm whatever. I'm over that. Me, like, I'm devastated. I'm in depression. I can't, what I'm saying, function no more, right? Because, that's, my perception of what happened to me, how it affected me, what I'm saying, the gravity on me is a lot more, than what it is on you. Like, and it's the same thing, right? We're both dealing with the same heartbreak, the same exact reason, like infidelity, and what I'm saying, but how I, what I'm saying, perceive that instance, what I'm saying, like, we can't, say that, like, oh, it isn't that bad, like, that's like, you telling somebody that's, in a super depression, like, oh, be, just, it'll be okay, just, shove it off, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So,
Right?
but
Depression is something that needs to be treated, right? So I'm not saying shake it off. You just depressed, right? There's a difference between sadness and depression.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you're sad, I'm gonna say yes, you need to be sad, but then you need to navigate through it, right? If you're just sitting in your sadness, well, that's not beneficial to you, right?
yeah,
In
yeah.
regards to your example, you're giving the worst example because I'm gonna say, hey, if you that toe up about the girl, then you're a blue pill beta male simp. But that's some whole nother thing. Let me digress from that. But yeah, no.
But
But even in that, there's has to be some ranges, right? You're talking about racism, so let's leave it there, right?
okay,
If someone calls you the N word, someone calls me the N word,
okay,
what is the range of response, right? So do I could be on the far left of the spectrum, doesn't phase me at all, right?
mhm.
I use the word. Other people around me that aren't black folks use the word. I'm cool. It don't matter if you're using the A or the ER. No biggie. Or the other side of the spectrum is you call me the N word, I'm gonna beat you down, right? So where is the spectrum there?
Hold on, but my thing is, see, I don't think it's just boom boom. I think it's, other. you
Yeah, there's
know,
something in the middle.
no, there's other dimensions.
What's the dimension?
So you got point A, point B, and I'm thinking like Y axis and you know what I'm saying, all of that, you know, other stuff because
What other stuff?
okay, here's the thing, right? So how somebody responds to abuse, you know, like that's a personal thing. You know, it's like pain. That's a personal thing. Everybody's tolerance isn't the same, you know, and so for somebody to say like, "Oh, racism isn't that bad anymore," like maybe not in your perception, but that's your perception of the world from you know how you and navigate through the world. But for another person, you know, their perception of the world and how they navigate through the world, like this could be the most worst thing, you know what I'm saying, that, you know, imaginable for them because that's how they, you know, perceive and navigate through the world. You get what I'm saying? Like,
And I
yeah.
think I would right when they look at um, trying to determine guilt or innocence. You know, they'll say, you know, we're making our judgments based on what we believe that people find reasonable, right? So for whatever reason, this woman had coffee spilled in her lap and she was awarded millions of dollars. To me, that's not reasonable,
Mhm.
right? If someone calls you an N word and you take out a gun and you shoot them, yeah, I don't care how uh, that affected you. You know, that's not reasonable.
No,
You
I
know what
would
I mean?
agree. Yeah, that's not reasonable. But you know what I'm saying? We're not talking about, you know, response to racism. We're talking about, you know, a person's, you know what I'm saying, um uh eternal internal.
How they take it.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
Then making that distinction, then I can concur with your statement.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's good. That's why we talk things
Yeah,
out,
we
right?
do.
Well,
Usually, yeah, yeah. Usually, you know, like, and I agree that like, you know, usually, yeah, that there got to be reasonable limits, you know, to stuff, and it just can't be, you know, like you know every possibility is okay, you know what I'm saying, like no, but like with things like you know with certain things we have to you know be willing to validate, you know what I'm saying, a person's you know you know their lived experience, their you know their perception of it, you know, in some things, not everything, you know, but in some things like yeah, you know.
so let me ask you another thing before we come way back out the rabbit hole because we done took a left, a right, took a plane. We're on a whole different plane right now.
That is not my fault this time.
no, that
Definitely not my fault
no,
this time.
no, that's okay. But my inquiry to you is this: you know, granted, we're having a conversation that isn't emotionally charged, right?
Mhm.
Um, we have a dog in the fight, but we're looking at it from an abstract, you know, viewpoint. What allows us to have this conversation, even though we were vehemently in disagreement at the beginning? What allows us to have that conversation and get to a spot where you're holding your position, I'm holding my position, we dialogue, and I can say, okay, based on what you're saying there, I can see that, and then you can see my side of it.
Well,
What, what,
I think it kind of goes back, and I'm trying to remember exactly the previous. We just recently had, and I don't know if it was last week or the week before,
mm,
where we were talking about conflict resolution, and you know where I was, you know, saying like, yeah, you know, you got to be willing to, you know, hear another person out, and you know be willing to concede and say like okay well maybe I'm wrong, you know what I'm saying, like just having that open mindedness to other possibilities of other realities, you know, like it's okay, you know what I'm saying, to you know put yourself in somebody else's shoes to see their reality, like, and that's how you get to a point of understanding and forward momentum, what I'm saying, in life. It's like, yeah, I'm not just so so stuck in like my position. However, even though, like, all right, so for example, like, all right, I'm like you said, like, you're holding your line, I'm holding mine. However, what I'm saying, um it's like we're parlaying, because like I like the period films, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, you got your army over here, I got my army over here, and then like the two guys on the horses, they come and meet in the middle, and like, let's have a discussion and talk it out, and like, what's this gonna really look like, what I'm saying? Like, we're parlaying, like, that's okay, what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that benefits, what I'm saying, I think you and I, what I'm saying? Because, like, even though I'm still, held to my position, because I'm willing to listen to yours, what I'm saying, I'm now expanding, my position to include, some of what you have to say. I can accept some of, your premise, right? I can add that, and that doesn't diminish or harm, my position. It strengthens it, because now, I have a wider horizon, a wider view, what I'm saying, of life.
Okay,
You know.
so then the question that I posed to the audience was, how do you believe we were able to have a conversation when we vehemently disagreed? And then what are the elements that you can identify? And I said, for example, respect. So what are some of those elements, other elements that you saw, uh, or that exist between us to have a conversation where we disagree but can have that conversation? So you one was listening, right?
Mhm.
What else?
Uh, can you rephrase the question? Hey, look, I gotta be 100. Like, yeah, rephrase that, bro, because you shot over my head.
All right. So let me paint the picture. And the reason why I'm having this conversation that may seem rudimentary to all of us brilliant people out here in the world is this is one of the big pieces that hold us back in making progress in whatever it is we're trying to do, right? Whether it's, an organization or goal setting, things of that nature. So what I'm saying is we had a disagreement, right? And we talked through that disagreement and we came to an understanding. What were the attributes or the traits that allowed us to do that?
Mhm.
So respect is one of those,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Respect, listening, what I'm saying, understanding the benefit,
Mm.
of the exchange of ideas. What I'm saying, how it strengthens, like I was saying, like, it doesn't diminish anything, it strengthens, like, understanding, what I'm saying, having that have coming to the conversation with an understanding that, one, I don't have a I'm not coming with a predetermined outcome, like, okay, in this conversation, at the end of it, like, either it's gonna go my way, or like, this a dead mute situation, right? I'm not.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Too deep in it,
Okay.
just
Okay.
state it and then state others, but not having a preconceived outcome for the conversation.
Right.
That's
Right.
interesting.
Right. Right.
Hmm. All right, I'll leave that there for now. And,
Mhm.
and the only reason why I'm gonna leave it there is sometimes people do come to the table because I'm here trying to convince you that
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
my
Like.
my
Yeah.
my hope out of this conversation is that at the end you'll see it my way.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you're stating what you believed, but you're open minded, and that's what Kendra put in the chat
Mhm.
to add information and maybe modify your thought or your
Yeah.
belief, right?
Yeah.
I may not, but I'm
I'm. I'm.
open-minded enough that
I'm
if
open
I
to it.
yeah,
Right.
if
Yeah.
it makes sense to me, then and it's logical, okay, yeah, I can
Yeah.
expand my thought on that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what happened in the conversation within the exchange of both of us and our analogies, and I turned out being a blue pill beta male simp, in my analogy, said I don't know how, but anyway, my point, like yeah, we can discuss this until like either we're blue in the face and like I don't see anything in what you have to say and you don't see anything in what I have to say, and like okay, and that doesn't hurt anything. Like we can still move forward where you hold on to your ideas and I hold on to mine, you know what I'm saying? And that's okay, you know what I'm saying? Or we can get, so that's what I mean by not coming with a preconceived outcome.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. We have these absolutes that you have to, and this is,
Well, there are absolutes in life.
there are, but what I'm talking about is in communication, you know what I'm saying, in us in dialogue between two people and their ideologies,
Sure. Sure.
So like, and I have no problem with saying this, right? I don't think that I think that I believe that homosexuality is a sin, right? And I use this example because this is prevalent in society today. The alphabet community is very prevalent in society. So I believe that it's a sin. However, I also believe that that's not my place, to tell somebody whether or not they can participate in sin. You know, so we can have a discussion about homosexuality or abortion or any of the other controversial ideas where I'm willing to listen to your side of it while you're pro and I'm you know against it, right? And so I'm willing to, we can exchange those ideas where, either, like I said, either we can go blue in the face and I stand on my line, you stand on yours, or there's modification, somewhere between one or the other, or, what I'm saying, like the outcome is infinite. That's fine, but when we come to a conversation with this has to be the outcome, you have to change your stance and accept that, my lifestyle is okay. No, I don't have to do that. What I have to do is respect your choice of your opinion, of your, your perception of the world. Like that's fair.
So does that go with racist also?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. And so I think a couple of weeks ago we began to engage in that conversation with the young lady that came out, right? And she was like, "Oh, you have to shut down, the uncle racist at the dinner table and, put him in the closet." And I'm like, "Nah." You know what I'm saying? You don't. You let him, state his ideas. Let him scream them from the rooftop. Let him, be free to express those ideas, because what it does is, one, exposes the person for who they are, what they believe, you know what I'm saying? But two, you know, uh, I'm thinking about, the younger generation, you know what I'm saying? And what happens is if they're hiding their beliefs and they're secretly installing or covertly what's the word?
Covertly
Installing those ideals into the next generation, it proliferates, right? But if you present good and evil to most people, they're going to choose good over evil. If you just give them and say like, okay, this is their position and that's their position, they're gonna be like, well, Uncle Racist, all right, they got a different color, but what did they do wrong? You know what I'm saying? They'll start to question and, make those connections of right and wrong. But if you just simply pouring in evil, 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 and they don't get a chance at the verse, then they don't get a chance to develop and say, you know what? Yeah, this isn't right. This isn't good. Like I like, you know what I'm saying, my friend Tommy. They're good and we have fun, and you know, you don't want me to play with them because their color is different, like, but that's, you know, they'll see that that's trivial and insignificant, and they'll make those choices, right? So
You think so?
I think it's more likely than not. You know,
I don't know about that.
well, you know, I do. I have seen her studies. What's her name? Dr. Jane. You know, she did the brown eyes and the blue eyes, and I have seen that. But you know what I'm saying? There are external forces, you know, applied there that, you know, led those outcomes. What I'm saying, what I'm saying is, if there's no external forces and they're just simply, you know, allowed to, you know, say like, hey, we're gonna play or we're not, we're gonna be friends or we're not. Um, you know, I think, you know, good inherently wins, and I think that race is a construct. Racism is a construct that was invented, you know, as a way of benefiting.
Okay, well, hold on. You're going way down the rabbit hole now.
All right, anyway, let's go back to the sermon. And we'll get into that another time. Because like I said, it's some conversation we should have. But anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So to come all the way back out the rabbit hole there, the radical rebel, right? Radicalizing your salvation.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Rev kind of recapped his message there. From my side of it, you know, for me, I think it's important for people to look at their thoughts, plans, and then to take action on it, right? Whatever that is, you know, that can be goal setting. Like I said, this is you know, I see, you know, the Bible, or one of the ways that I view the Bible as a resource and not just a spiritual book, right? Yes, it is a spiritual book. It is a holy book. Shout out to Jeff Flood for that. He had given a comment a few months ago about that. And I think it can be both things, right? And it can help guide you. And if it happens to guide you to God, then fantastic, right? But if it ends up helping you navigate your life and it doesn't guide you to God and Jesus, I'm okay with that also, because my purpose in this is for people to improve their lives, right? And so that's important for me. What I thought was interesting about one of the things you were saying was that, and this is a quote, you were saying that people today want to be preached happy, right? Preach me happy. And you said that Jesus suffered for you, right? You want happiness, but Jesus suffered for you. And so that really, you know, stuck out with me. And so I was thinking about what you were saying. It was like, well, not only did Jesus suffer for you, but he also died for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So he died for your salvation, not for your happiness, right?
Come on,
and
bro.
So it's like,
who preaching today? Who preaching today?
It was like, here you are. You want to feel good, right? And society is telling us, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about personal responsibility. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Just be happy. You just deserve to be happy, right?
Yeah.
And I was listening to another gentleman, and he was talking about, you know, happiness is unrealistic, you know, and you having a goal of being happy isn't real. That's a moment of feeling for a certain amount of time. You can't be happy 24 hours out of the day. Right?
It's it's
impossible.
Ephemeral. Yeah.
So,
It's
you know,
ephemeral state.
your goal setting on trying to, you know, satisfy your carnal, you know, thoughts is futile. And ultimately you're going to be miserable, because chasing happiness, you know, for a drug term, is like chasing a dragon.
Watch this though. Think about this. How much time people spend plotting and planning, you know, and this ephemeral state of happiness, right? You know, so you'll spend, you know, 15, you know, hours preparing for, you know what I'm saying, a 20-minute, you know, state of euphoria, right?
Euphoria, yeah.
You know, like, is that, you know, like, come on, that's insane. That time could be more productively used. And my thing is like, you would probably get more enjoyment and gratification and
Satisfaction.
satisfaction. Thank
Mhm.
you. Simply by living your life in the way that you ought to be living it, and of course I lean spiritually.
Well, right, and that's fair, right?
Which is outward focus towards others.
But the problem is ought to be living is no one knows what the ought to be living is, right? Because they're told to live for happiness.
Yeah,
work for happiness. Just be happy.
There's a
Just
lot of
be
people
happy.
that know what ought to is. There's a whole volume of books about it. It's called the Holy Bible. that tells you ought to. So,
But what I'm saying is that folks don't know that, right?
Mm.
Or like you said, the noise that gets in the way is and it's true. Some of the worst things on this planet have been done in the name of Christianity.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, yeah.
But looking at it through that lens,
and not just Christianity, religion.
No, but we focused on Christianity.
Okay,
right?
Christianity. Yes,
I hate when people move the goalposts.
Yeah.
Well, women do it too. It's
I
like
got you.
we talk about Christianity, right?
Yeah. There's been some horrible things done
that have been done in the name of Christianity.
Yes, I do agree.
And even though that
and
is
not just Christianity, Christ.
And even though that's done, you just got to keep pushing stuff in.
No, because that's Christianity. Like Christ is the root of Christianity.
Yes,
like,
I get you, Rev. I'm just saying.
All right. Go ahead. Let me be quiet. Zipping it.
I lost my thought now.
Horrible things done in the name of Christianity.
Horrible things.
Not only,
regardless, that even though that's true, right? What happens is folks will reject something that can benefit them, right? They're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You talked about yesterday, eat the meat, spit out the bones. Mm-hmm. The problem is that folks today can't identify the bones from the meat and they're eating it all. You know what I'm saying? And other folks are being tricked into eating the bones and not the meat.
Preach, brother.
They can't see what the meat is. And so that's why I think using the Bible as a resource is so important, because it can help you, again, spiritually. But it can also help you in your day-to-day, right? And that is a big issue that I think is missing. What we end up saying, another thing that I thought was really powerful, is all the excuses that we give, right? I'm too busy. I'm too embarrassed. You talked about that. You talked about, well, I don't know how. You'll hear, I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to, start this journey. And so that really, really stood out to me. And that becomes the reason on why you don't go forward. And that's why I say it's so important to be radical, right? In your thoughts, plans, and actions. No, I don't know how. But you know what? I didn't know how to do a podcast. Started watching YouTube videos, started watching other people, started with the phone, started adding things on, right? You didn't know how to play a video game, right? You just bought it new and you open it up and you either just start figuring it out. You bought a new electronic device. You switch from a Samsung to an Android to an Apple, right? You got to figure it out. It's worth it for you. And in that regard, you are driving the plane, flying the plane before you build it, because you don't understand how to use it yet.
Yeah.
You're motivated to try to figure it out. Go ahead and jump in, because you're chomping at the bit.
Oh, no. Because I had to literally, stop myself, in the list, right, of excuses that, are made, that, that I've heard, that I've used myself, or whatnot. And, it's just like like it's mind boggling, the number of excuses that we, what I'm saying, that we come up with, for not doing, what we know and we deep down know is most beneficial for us. And one of the biggest ones, that really, kind of stuck with me as I was, creating the list, because it was, I don't know, they were just coming to me like one after another, after another, after another. And so I give all glory to God for it. But, uh, that's embarrassing, not wanting to be embarrassed, or thinking that, doing something for Christ is, will cause you embarrassment, will prevent you from doing it, and I understand that embarrassment, is, a personal perception, right? Like, okay, that's fine. But people, using that as an excuse because they don't want to be embarrassed for whom they say that, is their Lord and Savior.
Let me
Or
touch on that, Rev.
okay.
I think that's probably the most powerful one that keeps people from moving forward and making progress in their life. That embarrassment.
Well, it's the second one too, and I'm gonna let you finish. Uh, and I think it's, it coexists with embarrassment. I don't want people to talk about me or laughing at me.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
go ahead.
So in that, let me just type that here in the chat. I don't want people. I don't want people.
So while you're typing that, another thing.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Stay here. Stay here,
Okay.
man.
Okay. Okay.
Stay here.
Okay.
This is big, right?
Yeah.
And why this is so big is we can identify with the things that we're sharing, right? I have felt embarrassed to stand up and speak in front of people. I have felt embarrassed to raise my hand and ask a question because I don't understand. I need to complete the assignment. I can be in junior high, I can be in elementary, I could be in high school, I can be in college, I could be at work, right? I could be in church. I don't understand, but I don't want to look stupid. So I'm not going to ask. I don't want to be ridiculed. So I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to try to figure it out. Or I hope and I pray that someone else will raise their hand and ask the question. And when they do, you're so relieved because you're like, oh, I had that question too. And that stops us from progressing in our life. I'm embarrassed because society tells me as a black male that I should dress a certain way, right? That I should identify with certain things, that I need to be chasing the bag. I need to be, hitting up these thotties. Or the baddies, I need to be doing this and that. I need to have this type of car. I need to listen to this type of music. I need to talk in this way. I need to do that. So if anything is counter to that, then I'm a square. I'm an educated lame. I'm a nerd. I think I'm above other people, right? And that will keep me from being there. I shared a story a few months ago. We were at a space with a bunch of kids, and my daughter wanted to do math problems, and one of the other kids said, "Nerd alert!" Right? So even at 10, that thing comes out, and so there was a season where Layla started dumbing herself down so that she didn't get embarrassed around her peers because they were shutting her down for that. Right?
Well, I would object with that. I think your premise in that is not that she's being embarrassed, but that she's being bullied. You know, uh, into dumbing herself down.
Well, embarrassed, bullied. What it is the standard, the status quo,
Yeah.
right? The prevailing thought on how we should be,
Yeah.
however we're fitting in that box. A Christian, a kid, or whatever, right? I may be pressured or bullied, or embarrassed to acquiesce to the group so that I don't stand out, which is why I led in the beginning, right? I have a tie on 6-7 days a week, and my own community will make judgment on me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in a bar last night. I got a tie on. Right? But I came from an event where I was wearing a tie. I don't have time to go home and change. But again, that's who I am, and it doesn't matter where I am. I'm Mr. C. I'm Marwan. That's who I am. So I don't worry about that.
I want to go back to the Layla thing.
Sure.
Because I think that's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Very important, point that's being made there, which is the way that we are programming our youth to value
Oh man.
non-educational things, you know what I'm saying? Where like, hey, okay, I'm gonna make a epitaph at you because you're choosing to take time in whatever space to further advance yourself. Like that should be valued. That should be like, oh man, okay, hey, give me one too. You know what I'm saying? But we're our, the society, and this is kind of what I was talking about, in the sermon, that and that was one of the excuses. Oh, that's just the way the world is. That's just the way society is.
Yeah.
Hey, that's just how kids is. Why are kids that way? Because we're teaching them what to value. We're teaching them to value, oh, you didn't, say anything about yesterday's football game, but you're trying to teach yourself math. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you ain't got nothing to say about the beef between Kanye and Donald Trump or whatever is happening.
They actually
whatever.
like each other, but
whatever.
Yeah.
I know they're related somehow. Anyway, my point is, like we're teaching them, what to value. You know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, we want to penalize and we want to penalize them, you know what I'm saying, and punish them for not being successful in academics, later in life, and or even at those earlier ages. Oh, you're grounded because you brought home all D's and F's, but all they see is mom and dad, you know what I'm saying, watching football and basketball and, Dallas Housewives and, Married at First Sight. And,
I think the point is parents are the first teachers.
Of course.
Right? And so,
of course. And they're the most important teachers.
And if that's what you value, right, then your kids are going to value that. So your kids can't get in the car and drive themselves to where you got them. Your kids can't watch a program that you don't allow to happen. The kids can't eat a meal that you don't, put in front of their face, right? So you have this time now with your children, and you know how hard it is for you in society as an adult. And are you doing your child a disservice?
And you're training them up to be the same way.
Right.
As you. Like you're struggling in as an adult,
right,
operating in the space and even as adults, I believe we're pressured and bullied into, behave in certain ways, at least until,
it's a poverty mindset, but even in adulthood, that persists.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, at least until like you grow enough to realize, that you can, like, I don't care.
No, I don't think they do realize it. I think
that's what I said. Unless you can grow to get to that point,
right?
Like I've grown to that point where it's like, look, I love God. I don't care what you think. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing this stupid stuff. I'm not falling in line with. I don't care what you think, right? Like hold
on, but I'm gonna stop you, Rev. I'm gonna stop you because you have a unique experience where you share on this show every week that you're the type of person that you always walked your own way.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone ain't like that.
That's true.
So then it is very hard to break out of a poverty mindset if you're not your own person, right?
That's
and
true.
you are
That's
more.
Yeah.
You have been so isolated in your experience, and you're looking for acceptance, right? And that's what happens with a lot of our young boys, right? They're not getting love at home, they're not getting support, and the gang provides that to them, right? And so then they gravitate to that. You say, "Hey, I ran with a gang, but I was still my own person. I ain't doing that." Most people aren't like that. That is a very, very unique trait, and so I always try to be careful when I'm telling those stories, because it might have been hard for me. It's going to be harder for you. Or maybe this was really easy for me.
Yeah.
Because it just was. People talk about, hey, when I decided to quit smoking, I just put it down. I was done. Other folks, they continue to struggle with drugs or alcohol, and they're going to meetings and doing all the work, and they're constantly doing the work, and they fall down from time to time and get back up, and the struggle and the struggle and the struggle, right? And so it's a different experience. Like, I just don't have a temptation. I just don't desire those things anymore. So that can be really difficult.
Yeah.
We are way past time, but I just want to stay in this just for just a second longer.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
because I think this is really, for me, the crux of your message, and seeing folks wanting and needing to grow in their lives and get to a certain space where they're self-sufficient, where they're self-reliant, uh, where they're interdependent, not codependent, right? Interdependent. That means we work together. We work with each other. We have needs from each other. But I am not codependent. Like, oh man, I just can't. Ain't no way unless you just doing this way, and this is how it is, right? There's a very big difference on that, and I encourage people to look at the definition between codependence and interdependence. But that's very important. Folks will say, well, I got it out the mud. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. You don't do anything by yourself. You don't do anything by yourself. There was always someone there that helped you, but in your thought, no one was there, and you just did it all on your own. But if you think hard, you will find those people that were there at different seasons of your life that helped you become the person that you are to now and have the success that you have. But what I would encourage you to do is really, stop. You can't control your thought. You're gonna have thoughts all the time, right? It's just something that we do, but you can guide your thoughts, right? Take some time and really look at, what is it that I want out of life? What is it that I'm trying to achieve?
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Your thoughts are a product of what you engage yourself in most often.
Facts.
And so, like, yeah, you maybe you're not completely 100% in control of every single thought that comes through your mind, but you can't have a barons, you can't have an influence on the predominant thoughts that run through your head based on what you engage in.
Yeah.
All right,
yep. Two examples. You love, NFL or Madden, right? The more you play Madden, the more you're going to be thinking about it, right? Oh, what plays do I need to call? What defense do I need to do, right? The more that you are in the church and reading the word and, going to Bible study and singing, right? The more your mind's going to be on Jesus, right? My mind's steady on Jesus. It's a thing, right?
Yeah.
If you're a college student, right, you need to have your mind on your studies. And so, and I would tell students all the time, it's like, look, you come to class and then you're trying to get the hell off campus as soon as possible. But your professors are there. The computer lab is there. The resources are there, right? You've got all of these resources, but you're leaving as soon as possible. So if you stay and you commit to that process, it's more likely than not that, not saying it's going to be easy for you, because some of the subjects are going to be hard. Some will come easier than others, but you're in the space where you're going to be able to access the resources so that you can achieve your goals. And that's what's important, right? And so, as you said, that will begin to change your thoughts because you're in the space where this is what I'm thinking about doing, right? If I'm cooking meals, then I'm focused on cooking.
Yeah,
that's
and
what I'm doing.
You hanging in the street and smoking and drinking all day, that's all you really gonna think about.
Right. Well, and or you will have some time to think about, what I shouldn't be here. I should be doing this, right? But then, when does the thought turn into planning, turn into action?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So radical rebel.
And we're not done with Radical Rebel. This is just part
It's just
one.
Starting. It's just starting. So from the Rev side, Radical Rebel. From my side, thoughts, plans, and action. And a lot of that is, discovering that you are your own person, and it doesn't matter how people perceive you, right? Don't worry about that. I share with folks all the time. It's like, is that person taking care of your children? Is that person, paying your rent? Is that person, do they have your best interest at heart? Are they actually trying to help you? Or, are they, they're trying to guide you out of their own, selfish intent, right? That is really important. And that's hard to decipher, who that is and who that isn't. And sometimes, you have to understand, you pick who your mentor is, right? Not the other way around. But you also decide, a lot of times go here. And I was sharing this with, oh, well, Mr. C, I hear what you're saying. And I know it's all good. It's probably all good, right? I know you got this proven track record, but there got to be lots of other ways to achieve this. And my dad would always say, there's worse hotels than mine, right? But I know that if you follow this, you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for, right? But can you still get there if you try to take some and modify it and do this and that? Yeah, you might. But right now, you're not, I'm going to say not strong enough, but you don't have all the tools yet, or you're not using the tools in the way that, in order for you not to stray from it. And so you see it, and we talk about it all the time when we help folks and then they disappear for a while, right? There's right? Because you can be embarrassed even when it's good things.
Yeah.
Because now I don't want to do the good thing right now. I just need to be bad for a little bit. I just need to go and come off my path that I have been yelling to the mountaintops. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to be in my life. And that's what I'm doing. And then it's like, hey, you're not being congruent in that. Well, you don't want people to see you not being congruent. So you disappear for a while. And then when you come out of it or it gets bad again, and then you come back and it's like, all right, I'm here, right? I don't want to hear that it told me so. Just let me get back on the program, right?
Yeah.
And so be radical.
Yeah. So last thoughts, because we're really over time.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
That is a good one. No.
I know. That's why I said, listen, people, stick with this. This is really just part one. Because I'm finna go into a whole triad. What is it?
Triad.
Not triad.
Diatribe.
Yeah. I'm finna go off the rails, people. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm finna live out the radical rebel.
Wow.
So,
oh man,
go ahead.
All right, I'm a little.
You get last words. I'm done there.
All right. Well, I hope I don't get hit with that collateral damage from this radical rebelness that you got going on.
Hey. All I'm saying is, they say like when blessings start flowing, you want to get closer to people, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you want that overflow, you want that splash. I'm not finna radical rebel like lightning thunder like strike. So you cool on that, I'm aiming for blessings, So.
The last thing I'll say is in your pursuit of being a radical rebel, I think you actually will find more happiness than if you didn't, right?
I believe so. I believe so.
And so just kind of circling back and talking about, folks trying to, I just want to be happy, be happy. I saw a woman wearing a t-shirt, be happy or feel good, right? It's like, that's a moment. You feel good now in this moment. You made yourself physically feel good with what you put in your mouth or, have a sexual relationship, whatever the case may be. But that's just a moment in time. How do you try to feel good, because your rent was paid, your bills were paid, right? Your safety is intact. That's the feel good that you should be directing your actions toward.
All right.
This
is the last word. Hey, for the No Cap Recap, I am Reverend Ellington. This is Brother Marwan Cameron.
Mr. C,
Mr. Ice. Y'all don't know about the ice. We're going to bag up off of that one. Listen, we thank you guys for tuning in and joining us in today's conversation. We'll be back, if the Lord says the same, next week. And there's a very high probability of that. So, if the Lord says the same, we'll be back with another No Cap Recap. We'll go into part 2 of the Radical Rebel. And we're going to, as this progresses, the conversation will get what's the word? More
nuanced?
No.
Radical?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I like that.
That sounds like a threat and a promise.
Yeah. We're gonna touch on some real world issues, and I, at least for myself, I can't say how I'm not bagging up off nothing. Like, yeah. What?
Well, let's go. All right. Yeah. We'll tune in next Saturday. Sounds like it's gonna be on and popping.
Cracking.
Oh, we're dating ourselves again.
Well,
I think slapping is even old now.
Yeah, I don't mind dating. Look, yeah. I got that salt and pepper. I'm seasoned. Like, yeah.
All right. I'm Mr. C, and from Methuselah over here. We'll see you next